Volunteered me to step in. I won't be nearly as entertaining as she can be, but I'm going to do the best I can. Welcome to lunch, members and non-members. Caroline, if you're ready. We'll start. Are you going to do the treasurer's report, or just the membership? Okay. We're going right to the membership report.
Can you hear me? Okay. So we have a whole slew of new member applications. Yay! And if you look forward, you can see the names up here, and I will read them off. We have a lot, so I'm just going to ask the new members to stand and take a bow, and then we'll vote on you. So we will start with Leah Brown. Thank you. And Leah found out about AOI through me. We've been through elementary school, middle school, and high school together, and now we walk in the park, in Rock Creek Park. So, welcome, and thank you for joining. Rosalind Coates could not be here today. She's the immediate past president of our hosts at the Women's
NDC.
National Democratic Club. And she's out of the country, but she has joined. Carol Cowgill found out about us through Barbara Ehrlich. And is she here? I don't think she's here. Barbara's here, but Carol is not. And so it's Kathy Hockman. So Kathy is our current president of the Women's National Democratic Club, but she also has the distinction of being the very first member of 2026. She got her application in. Like we turned on our computers on January 1st, and hers was in there. So thank you. Jean Lynn, who is vice president of the Women's National Democratic Club. Yep. And Winfield Swanson recruited her. Linda Cole McKay, fourth generation Washingtonian. I don't think she's here.
No, she's not.
And she found out about us through the internet. Dan Mayer. His sister, Corrine Mayer, just joined last year in childhood, and she's a childhood friend of ours, and he was the annoying older brother. But, but we'll still welcome him into the fold. Barbara Wallace. Is Barbara here?
Thank you for showing up.
She is a friend. She was also recruited by Winfield Swanson. Thank you, Winfield. Okay, now we have two sisters who joined at the same time. Nancy Burns Coranto and Barbara Burns Williams. And they are both here. So I move to vote on the slate of new members. Any seconds?
JR, thank you.
Any nays? Yays. No, yays go first. Sorry. Robert's Rules of Order. Any? So yays.
Yays.
Nays. The yays have it.
There you have it. Thank you, Caroline.
Welcome, everyone.
So some business to take care of before we go into the program. We have a roster of speakers for the rest of the season. March 19th, we have a former correspondent from CBS, Chip Reed, talking about the network journalist coverage of Washington, the nation, and the world. On the 16th of April, we have the U Street Legacy Businesses Lee's Flower Shop with Stacey Lee Banks. The 21st of May, the Washington Legacy family with the Boggs Roberts award-winning writer, educator Rebecca Boggs Roberts will be speaking. That should be excellent. I've heard her speak before on this very issue. The 18th of June, Bluegrass Hall of Famer Tom Gary interview with WRC News 4 reporter Mark Seagraves. September 17th, the golden era of Washington Post with former Washington Post columnist and author Bob Levy. October 15th, Washington legacy family, the Grahams and Donald Graham, chairman of the Graham Holding Company. And a couple other things going on in the city that you all might want to know about. On Monday, February 23rd, early councilmen to discuss the tumultuous 8 years when the district had 3 different forms of government. This is a panel discussion happening at the Wilson Building, like I said, on February 23rd at 5:30. It's open to the public. There's also a very interesting program here at the club that WNDC is sponsoring on Thursday, February 26th, and it's combating Trump's desecration of the White House and other federal historic buildings with Rebecca Miller, the executive director of DC Preservation League. Then, April 29th at Politics and Prose, Garrett Peck, the author who is also a member of AOI, will be speaking about Willa Carter and her archbishop. Okay. Wednesday, March 19th, the foundation of the Women's Club is having an event here celebrating women writers, a literary salon, 5:30 to 7:30, and you can register online through the club's portal. I think that's all the business. You're doing the introductions for the... I think we are. Are you all ready to start? All right. I'll turn this over to Bill Brown, and he'll do the introductions for the program. Thank you.
Hey, welcome everybody. It's great to see a nice turnout like this. I've got a couple points of personal privilege I'd like to mention before I make the introduction of today's guests. Rick mentioned that our June 18th program is going to be with Tom Gray about Washington bluegrass, but it's actually more than that. Tom Gray's father, Harold Gray, actually saved the Association of the Oldest Inhabitants from extinction back in the early 90s. The membership was down to about 3 people. He was a longtime resident of the Palisades over in Northwest Washington. He and Sidney Hayes and a few other people got together after the untimely death of their past president, William S. Waters, AOI. So everything was sort of spiraling out of control. So Harold, Tom Gray's father, pretty single-handedly saved the organization. So anyhow, so there's a nice little twist on that. While Mark Seagraves and Tom will be up here talking about music in Washington and growing up and going to Western High School and life in the Palisades and all, there's that little thing hanging over it that his father is actually responsible for us all being here today, and for the program he's going to be, the focus of in June. I see Nelson's over here because Rick forgot Nelson's trivia question, history question. But before we get to that, my other point of personal privilege is that I was really surprised in November when I was sort of wandering around the back during our 160th gala that the board had very stealthily and surreptitiously decided to rename the Project 160, which was the organization's effort to digitize our extensive collections and make them public, in my name. So I was like, where did this come from? I didn't know anything about that. So I really was taken quite aback. It's quite an honor to, have my image flashed on a page of the website, asking people to donate to this. And I will say that since the fund was renamed in my name or honor, that more than $5,600 has been donated to the fund, which now, and even in its short existence, is over $8,100, I think. Isn't that right, Carolyn? 88 plus something, 8,000 something. So, and a lot of that came in since the November anniversary. So I really appreciate that. So I'm going to give the MRSPT folks a chance to enjoy their dessert while Nelson comes up and conducts his, we don't call it trivia, his History Challenge. Okay, Nelson?
There you go. Okay. Well, it's a sesquicentennial celebration of the Declaration of Independence, so I thought I would try and squeeze a few history questions in about that. And I thought I would go to the Founding Fathers at the time and pick up quotes from their time, and ones that you probably haven't heard before, but maybe you have. So this is a founding father who signed both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. A lot of them didn't have that distinction of signing both. And so I'm going to limit it to this time to everybody who's here for the first time. We'll give them the first shot at this. And I'll give you a few clues. He was from Pennsylvania, and he, let's see, what else kind of clue can I give you to put in there? And he was also known for a different quote that he made when the Constitution was adopted. He was asked, he was there at the Constitutional Convention, he was asked when he came out, what kind of government do we have? And he said, a republic if you can keep it. So the quote is, I've got to give you the quote to make it official. He said at the time that beer is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy. We got a winner. Huh? There you go. Okay.
Before we launch into the official part of the program, were there any other announcements or anything that anybody wanted to make? We don't usually have like open mic, but sometimes we miss things. What, Carolyn? Do you have your mic there? Rick's bringing one to you right behind you.
I mentioned that the Women's National Democratic Club we have 3 officers that have joined. I think this is the first time, Bill, that we have 3 officers.
Oh, I'm sure.
Of the Women's National Democratic Club.
Oh, yeah.
And they are our hosts.
Yes,
we
absolutely.
went through, I started coming with my dad when we were meeting at the Channel Inn. And then we moved to
Capital Skyline. Capital Skyline Hotel. Yeah.
And then we were like sent into the wilderness after COVID.
Right.
And through Rick and Walter, we were able to procure this. And I think this is the best
Absolutely.
space.
I second that.
And I want to thank our hosts for making this possible. Thank Rick and Walter.
Absolutely.
Just wanted to say that.
I've been a member of AOI now for 30 years. Jan Evans Hauser, who was Heinrich's granddaughter, this is a long story, got me involved in the organization in 1995. And then, of course, I went on and served as president for a couple of years. Everyone loved the Pier 7, they loved the seafood Newburgh, and they loved the fruit plate and all that, that then Capital Skyline was not able to offer, but they still hosted us for a number of years until COVID. But the Women's National Democratic Club is the most welcoming, warmest place that in my 30 years that AOI has ever been able to call home. So thank you to everybody. And there are a lot of crossover people too. Not just officers of WNDC, but members of WNDC that are also members of AOI. So we appreciate that, and thank you for your hospitality. Okay, so I'm going to introduce today's program, and I had to write it out. Usually I just talk off the top of my head, but I was afraid that I was going to, forget something. So you have to bear with me, and I hope I don't become too monotonic here. So Sisters Patricia Tyson and Theresa Saxton personally have a long history with the AOI of DC, dating back to when AOI past president Dr. Philip W. Ogilvie, he was my predecessor, assisted them and the living alumni of the Military Road School to seek historic designation status for their former school. Since then, the MRSPT, the Military Road School Preservation Trust, has been one of the AOI's 6 favorite affiliates, receiving one of our $25,000 sesquicentennial grants in 2015. Now, since 2025, Pat and Theresa have served on the AOI Board of Directors as what we consider institutional board members. They're sort of like a tag team, institutional board members, 2 people filling 1 slot on the board, along with Kim Bender, who's also on the board, until recently of the Heinrich House Museum and Foundation, but she's just been made director of the AIA Foundation. So both Theresa and Pat, as well as Kim, sort of have this institutional knowledge and connection being directors of AOI. Although Theresa and Patricia were both born in the district, when they were 2 and 4 years old, their parents moved to an African-American community known as Littonsville, located just over the line in rural Silver Spring. The neighborhood elementary school was typical of those in other African-American communities throughout Montgomery County during the era of racial segregation, in that it was a 2-room structure for classes with 2 outdoor bathrooms. The county provided furniture and textbooks which were no longer used by the white children when their schools received new materials. So they were always the recipients of hand-me-down materials, if you will. Because their father, who had also grown up in Montgomery County and had attended the Military Road School, knew of its educational excellence, the parents decided to send both daughters there. So they were coming in from just across the line in Montgomery County into DC for their education. A bill that they have in their possession, dated December 21st, 1948, reflects that the required non-resident student tuition was $53.77 per semester per girl. Theresa and her sister were part of the student body of approximately 30 children still attending the school when it closed in 1954 because of the Supreme Court's Brown versus Board of Education decision. Pat recalls, "My mother and father drove me on my first day to class at the Military Road School. I was all dressed up and ready to get started, but for some reason my mom was crying, so my father asked her to stay in the car, and he took me inside the building. It didn't take me long to adjust at all. I loved going to school, learned a lot, and had a whole bunch of new friends." That was Pat. Theresa recalls, prior to being officially enrolled as a first grader at the Military Road School, she was permitted to attend classes as an observer. I guess in today's days we'd say she was auditing the class. She was admitted as an observer in the rear of the classroom because her older sister was already a second grade student there. This was a common practice for younger children at the time since kindergarten was not available. So she was very familiar with the daily routine of a typical school day, becoming a student herself in 1950. So you'll hear today from Sisters Pat and Theresa not only about how their love for the school was the incentive behind having it recognized as a historical landmark, but how the support for the Military School Road Preservation Trust by the school's alumni and new supporters has cemented its legacy of continuing to support students seeking a higher education. So I'd like to introduce Theresa Saxton and Pat Tyson, if you all would come forward. I'm going to turn this a little bit. Is that all right? I'll click for you, yeah. But you have to let me know when to click. Okay. Come on up. And they've got water. If you need water, just grab one of those.
Okay, I'm
gonna
good.
be right over here.
I'm good. Thank you. This is a first for me. So I asked Bill to click for me. And he's graciously consented. And Bill, I thank you so much for taking care of all of the slides for us. He tightened up our PowerPoint so that we could share with you our story, because your organization has supported us for so many years, and many of you here don't know what we did or who we are. So we hope to share some of that with you today. And I've written a script for myself since this is my first time. At this New Year's Day brunch, I reminded Pat Brown. Is Pat here today? No, I didn't think so. I reminded Pat Brown of how my first elevator speech was necessitated by her impromptu introduction of me to reporter Tom Sherwood at the 2011 brunch. And those of you who know Pat know she's not shy. My immediate response to his question asking, "What's so special about the Military Road School?" resulted in the Military Road School story being told on Channel 4 for that Black History Month. The crux of my response, that it was not about the building, but the people, was just a simple testimonial to the dedicated teachers, caring parents, and supportive community who all worked together to make sure that we had the best opportunities to get a good start in life by getting a quality education. It's been quite a while since we have given a formal presentation about our beloved Military Road School, but this one today is unique in that we especially wanted to chronicle our journey of sharing the school's story while also focusing on the significant role that AOI, some of its individual members, and so many others have played in the success of that journey. A journey which is as much about the people who have helped us tell our story as it is about the story itself. Okay. Research documenting the history of the Military Road School is an ongoing endeavor. And even though not conclusive, available records and oral histories agree that the Military Road School was established during the Civil War era, and that although it may have had its beginnings in a home, church, or other community space, as was a common practice back then, at some point in time, classes were held in an Army barracks building that was part of Fort Stevens. Okay. Congressional legislation passed in 1862 and refined in 1864 provided for 2 public schools to be built in 8 Washington County school districts, one for white children and one for colored children. When funds to do so were authorized in 1866, 2 wood-frame schoolhouses were built in Brightwood. The colored school was built on Rock Creek Ford Road at what is now 14th Street, and the white school pictured here on Military Road. Some 23 years later, in 1889, when a new brick schoolhouse known as the Brightwood School opened for white children, their building was turned over to the colored division, and that building, together with the existing one on Rock Creek Ford Road, which was known as the Annex, was used to educate colored children until the current structure was built in 1912. This 2.5-story Italian Renaissance red brick structure consisted of 4 classrooms and 2 basement playrooms, as well as playground areas and gardening space. After Military Road had been renamed to Missouri Avenue in 1957, the Military Road School PTA sought to have the school renamed to Twin Oaks because of 2 large oak trees located in the front yard. However, that request was denied based upon the temporary nature of the trees, which were in fact removed when Missouri Avenue was later widened. This fifth grade report card and 1911 gold pen that bears the Military Road School's initials belong to student Mosberry Lewis. They are the oldest available artifacts we are aware of, and they have been preserved by his daughter Dorothy, who also attended the school. Teacher Ruth Whitted took this 1940s photo of her students at Fort Stevens, and although still accessible during the Military Road School's existence, an underground cellar used for storage during the Civil War was eventually sealed and is currently marked only by a set of white doors. And if you've been to Fort Stevens, you've seen those cellar door, white doors on the grounds. This is the St. Luke Baptist Church where our Christmas programs and other similar events were held due to a lack of auditorium-type space at the school. And despite having relocated several times within the Brightwood area, St. Luke's support for the Alumni Association and for MRSPT has included hosting our annual prayer breakfast and many other activities over the past 30 years. This this final May Day celebration pictures Miss Norma Johnson on the far left and her 5th and 6th graders with the May Queen and the May King. The total number of students at that time was approximately 30. And 6th grader Patricia Tyson bears the distinction of being the school's last May Queen. You see her back there with a crown on. She's the one with the crown on, standing next to the May King. Yeah. Yeah, with the crown on her head in the back. No, over next to the guy in the dark jacket. Yeah, that's the May Queen. Okay, next. This May 1954 Times Herald News article pictures teacher Doris Tracy with several of her students, and it highlights the uniqueness of our school, which summoned children to class with a handbell. Fresh out of Minor Teachers College, Miss Tracy began her career in 1952 at the Military Road School and taught grades 1 through 4. When the school closed, neighborhood children went to Brightwood Elementary, located half a block away. However, because a lot of students had either come from Maryland or enrolled in schools closer to where they lived, many lost touch with each other over the years until a chance meeting prompted 3 alumni to explore the possibility of having a school-wide reunion. More than 120 alumni and guests attended this school-wide reunion held at the Charles Sumner School Museum on October 14, 1995, at the invitation of its director, Richard Hurlbut. After our reunion, the connection with Sumner continued with Mr. Hurlbut's successor, Nancy Suggs, and with its current director, Kimberly Springle. And we recently donated artifacts to the museum, and Kimberly graciously received them. 2 years after the reunion, a small group of alumni who were concerned about the building's future met at St. Luke and formed an alumni association. Mr. Hurlbut, who had shared how he saved Sumner School from being demolished, helped us prepare an application for the Historic Preservation Review Board to designate the Military Road School as a historic landmark. And I'd just like to give a shout out to Mary Ann Gamble, who's here today. Mary Ann helped with the research for that application. She was a co-worker at the time with my sister. And she's been with us through the years, supporting us, so I wanted her to be recognized. Okay, 2 years after the reunion, a small, I read that. Okay. Now, this next one, Mr. Hurlbut also requested the honor of publishing this notice on the Alumni Association's behalf. At the conclusion of its hearing on July 23rd, 1998, which you see the date there, the Historic Preservation Review Board issued a decision listing the school and its site on the DC Inventory of Historic Sites, while also recommending its nomination to the National Register of Historic Places. No, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. After meeting Civil War historian Dr. Frank Cooling, he applauded our preservation endeavors, and in addition to attending our events, he has often referred to the Military Road School's connection with Fort Stevens in many of his talks about the battle that took place there. We also met National Park Service Ranger Gerard Jolly, who invited alumni to take part in the 135th anniversary of the Battle of Fort Stevens in 1999. After learning more about its history, alum Pat Tyson began an annual tradition of honoring Mrs. Elizabeth Thomas, the African-American landowner whose property was seized to expand the fort, by simply posting on those cellar doors I mentioned earlier information about Lincoln Thomas Day that she had found in Dr. Philip Ogilvy's report about the Civil War in Brightwood. Wanting to learn even more about the city's Civil War history led us to the African American Civil War Memorial, where several alumni and Ranger Jolly presented its founder, Dr. Frank Smith, with a wreath in November of 1999. Besides historians and preservationists, the following three individuals are representative, of connections we pursued with various officials, neighborhood organizations, and the academic community. Ward 4 Council member Adrian Fenty, who was the Ward 4 Council member at that time, attended the Alumni Association's first prayer breakfast in 2001, at which we also awarded the first two of our college scholarships. In the center, community activist Loretta Newman, who is, presented a statement to the Board of Zoning Adjustment on behalf of Historic Tacoma, Inc., requesting denial of an application for a proposed 13-unit townhouse development on vacant land adjacent to the Military Road School. And you all know Dr. Philip Ogilvy. His invaluable expertise and support included a class project that he assigned to his George Washington University students. They designed a website which compiled an extensive list of alumni names and associated some of them with their photos that were taken at that 1995 reunion. In fact, MRSPT's website, which was the first one we had, has a link, which is the newest one we have, has a link to the Alumni Association's website, which was the first one we had, containing that compilation. And you can access that from our MRSPT website. Okay. Alumni Association members, together with some of the associates that I previously mentioned, drafted a proposal for use of the school building and its site, which would reflect the historical era beginning April 1862 up to 1954. And that small group met with D.C. delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton to explore the possibilities for any assistance she might be able to provide. However, that proposal never went anywhere. Alumni also shared their experiences as military road school students and their mission to preserve its legacy of providing a quality education with D.C. School Superintendent Paul Vance, as you see in the center, the tall one at the top. And, he was very receptive to listening to us, but we just wanted to make that connection. Okay? Additional support for our preservation efforts came in the form of AOI's own 2003 resolution to Mayor Anthony Williams, Councilmember Adrian Fenty, and the D.C. Office of Property Management, asking that the school building be leased rather than sold. We were pleased to learn that the proposal for townhouse development that I mentioned earlier was ultimately withdrawn, and that the vacant property near the school was purchased by the National Park Trust for subsequent transfer to the National Park Service. This reception right here celebrated NPT's purchase, and the Alumni Association hosted that on April 23rd, 2003, right on that stretch of property. So we were very pleased to be a part of that. Mary Farrell of the DC Preservation League, who was one of our most impassioned advocates, and some of us really remember Mary. She's passed on now, but Mary was very impassioned about saving the school building, and she wanted alumni to have it, which didn't happen, and that was probably the best thing. But she recommended changing the organization's name to expand its membership beyond alumni, because we had very few alumni who were able to participate. So we therefore accepted Barbara Johnson's suggestion, and on that date, May 23rd in 2003, we became the Military Road School Preservation Trust. Now, in keeping with MRSP's goal to support our base, we hosted several educational events that included 2 Civil War symposiums. That's the certificate where we became MRSPT. Next. Okay, we hosted 2 Civil War Symposium and other booklets after we became MRSPT. And some of those booklets are available on that back table if you'd like to just take some. Also, other literature is available there. So if you haven't, stop by our table and pick up something. Particularly bookmarks. There are some bookmarks back there that are from our 1995 school reunion. And they were left over, and I don't know what else to do with them. So I brought them and put them on the table. They're nice, big, red bookmarks. Okay. Among our partnership ventures was working with the team that created the Brightwood Heritage Trail booklet that was published by Cultural Tourism. MRSP has also served as a nonprofit sponsor for various grants funded by organizations such as DC Humanities and the DC Preservation League for projects like mapping segregation. And of course, Mara Cherkasky of Prologue DC began researching that project in 2014, and it officially launched its website in 2018, and it's still an ongoing project. So Mara's here today, and most of you know her But she's also been very, very closely connected with her, and we're happy that we were able to be the nonprofit sponsor for some of those grants. And a link to their website, Prologue DC's website on mapping segregation, is also available from ours. Okay, we first became acquainted with the Ellen Spencer Mussey tent of the Daughters of Union Veterans through ladies who also belong to the National Society Colonial Dames 17th Century. And this tent has consistently donated to our scholarship fund over the past 20 years. And some of these dear ladies, of course, have gone on, but the tent itself is still very supportive. And I think there are a couple of members that we usually see here at the luncheons. I don't see them today, but they normally come to the luncheons. So they're very supportive of us. Since 2011, MRSPT has been extremely grateful for the National Park Service's unwavering support and assistance with Lincoln Thomas Day programs at Fort Stevens. Rangers Kim Elder and Frenice Sewell, and Frenice is here today. Frenice, stand up. They can't see you. Yeah. Ranger Frenice Sewell has been so helpful to us, and we really appreciate Frenice and Kim's assistance. But they, along with other NPS Rangers and staff, have provided much-needed resources for this annual event, which has also been heightened by the participation of Civil War reenactors such as the Freed Ladies from the African American Civil War Museum, USCT soldiers, and of course, President Abraham Lincoln and Mrs. Elizabeth Thomas. Now, of course, Phil Collins is the Abraham Lincoln reenactor. Phil isn't here today, but I think Angie's here. Angie? Okay. She is our Mrs. Elizabeth Thomas. So they've helped. And we're also grateful to have connected several years ago with the National Association of Colored Women's Clubs, which established Lincoln Thomas Day in 1925. And we're pleased that NACWC's increased involvement since our connection has culminated in their organization planning this year's September 19th program. And they're the ladies in purple and white that you see there. So they have, this is their Washington, basically their Washington contingency, but they're a national organization. They couldn't have a representative here today, but we're very excited that they're going to step up in this year's planning. Okay. This 2012 Lincoln Thomas Day observance was a historic celebration of Ward 4 Council member Muriel Bowser's successful undertaking to have the portion of Quackenboss Street adjacent to Fort Stevens renamed Elizabeth P. Thomas Way in honor of Mrs. Elizabeth Proctor Thomas. And as you can see, maybe some of the people there, you see Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton and Vincent Gray, along with then Ward 4 Council member Bowser, and a lot of other people. It was a very, very wonderful celebration, and we had as our MC Karen Gray Houston from Channel 5 News. Karen's participated in a lot of our events, and she wanted to be here today, but she's also having a Black History Month celebration out of town, and of course she and her husband moved to North Carolina, but when they come, they stop and check in with us, and we get to see them. So she's a longtime supporter as well. Okay. In 2014, MRSPT celebrated the 150th anniversary of the founding of the Military Road School with a gala featuring Washington Redskins defensive lineman Dexter Manley. And he's pictured there on the left with Ms. Doris Tracy Taylor and her husband Lourdes. Now you'll remember that I mentioned the picture in 1954 with Miss Doris Tracy and her students. Well, Mrs. Taylor, believe it or not, must have retired about 3 different times from teaching. And she was then, and even up to about 3 years ago, she was still substitute teaching. Yes, she passed away probably about 3 months or so before after she officially retired. And she just loved the children, and she taught even through the pandemic. She would go into the school and use the classroom there to teach remotely. But it was difficult because of the young children, to keep their attention and so forth. So she eventually retired, but she was a beautiful lady, and we really loved her. We're so happy to have reconnected with her. Okay, now, as Bill mentioned before, in 2015, several of our board members attended their sesquicentennial gala luncheon. And we were pleasantly shocked when they called us first to receive the first of 6 $25,000 awards that they were giving away that year. And we were floored. But it just gives you an indication of how long this organization has supported us, and we so appreciate that. Okay, one of the ways that MRSPT continues to honor the Military Road School's standard of educational excellence is through scholarships awarded each year to local students attending an accredited college, university, or trade school. Since the Alumni Association's first 2 recipients were selected in 2001, 74 scholarships have been awarded for a total of more than $57,000. And the Military Road School Donessa Lucas Memorial Scholarship Fund has become our signature program for sharing the school's rich educational legacy. Several Military Road School alumni we're familiar with who exemplify its legacy of excellence are my dad and my sister's dad, Lawrence Tyson. He's seated there behind a desk, and there's a story with that, but we're just so proud of our dad because he really utilized the gifts that he had, that he honed. And he's sitting there to sign a contract. But he was a blue-collar worker at the government printing office. So he earned what he was doing, and these gentlemen behind him are in agreement with him signing that contract. So we're just really proud of him. But he used those skills within his community as the president of the Civic Association and also organizations, many other organizations that he became a part of. So we're very proud of our dad. Now, I've mentioned this lady before, Mrs. Dorothy Lewis Dickerson, whose father, Mosbury Lewis, was mentioned earlier. She's pictured here holding her own report cards for grades 1 through 6. Yes, she doesn't travel very much anymore, and she didn't want to come today. So I took this picture of her with her report cards. So anyway, yeah, she's a beautiful lady. And she turned 100 last year, so she's our oldest known living alumni. Now, these two ladies are Ms. Rose Harper and Mrs. Mary Hicks. They are here today. And they use their literary talents as authors, sharing their experiences and personal perspectives in their respective books. Mrs. Hicks amplifies the subject matter in her book, which is Freedom Cries, If the Fruit of Freedom is Joy, Why Are We Still Crying? And Ms. Hicks is over at the table. She's going to be up on the panel a bit later, but I brought along her book. And she amplifies the subject matter of this book through talks that she still gives, which feature a set of authentic slave chains. So I've got to hear one of her talks. I've not heard them yet. She's so busy, but she's here today. Among, okay, and Rose Harper, her book, let me say this, The Art of the Deal Golf. And Rose is here today, but I brought her book along. She didn't know that. But you might want to talk to her about that. But I had to take a picture of this. Among the 2009 DC Hall of Fame inductees, which included local news anchors Maureen Bunyan and J.C. Hayward, is our own Rose Harper there, second line from the bottom, right next to Chuck Brown. And I'm sure you all know who Chuck Brown is, the godfather of go-go. So we're real proud of Rose being recognized. Now, neither of these two are old enough to have attended the Military Road School. However, we considered each in their own right to be exemplary of the Military Road School standard of excellence. Former TV news reporter Karen Gray Houston, on the left, who I mentioned earlier, for her professionalism as well as her supportive role in several of MRSPT's events. And Karen is still extremely supportive. She even got on our Zoom, our virtual scholarship reception that we had last month. So we're always happy when she comes to the area and we can get together with her. And her wonderful husband, Bob. Dexter Manley, who most of you know, he was officially known as the Minister of Defense. And although he was functionally illiterate throughout his football career, he corrected that deficiency after his career ended. And he shared with our audience just how much it meant to him to finally be able to read. You know, because most people don't even know, and he went through college, but he was functionally illiterate. So we had a high degree of respect for him. And there's our president at the time giving him his certificate as an honorary alumnus of the Military Road School. So, okay. In closing, we want to recognize MRSPT's past and present board members. Now, we've only had 12 people in our entire existence as MRSPT. We've only had these 12 people as board members. And we thought it was important to just have one slide with all of them on it because each one contributed something special. And they played a part in some way in our success. So we reached heights we never would have imagined without them. All the way on the end, at the top, is Barbara Johnson, whom we first met at the 1995 reunion. And besides becoming a key organizer of the Alumni Association, Barbara was one of 3 alumni who spent a lot of time and energy gathering the information needed to file the application for historic preservation, the same one that Marianne helped on. The other 2 were my sister and my dad. They did the legwork and got this application together. BJ also served as MRSPT's president until her passing in 2019. Next to her is my dear husband, John. And in addition to being known for his grits, hominy grits, that were a regular favorite at MRSPT's prayer breakfast, he performed design and layout for all of our printed materials, which included program booklets like are back on the table, newsletters, and brochures. He also served as our treasurer, website manager, and photographer until he passed in 2018. So that was a huge loss for us as well. Now, next to him, you'll recognize someone who's already been up here today. It goes without saying that every preservation organization needs a historian. And we were fortunate to have had Nelson Ryman Snyder on our board. We still appreciate his faithful encouragement, and we're so glad that he and his wife Lisa could attend last year's prayer breakfast, which had not been held since the city's pandemic forced us to cancel the previous one, the day before it was scheduled to take place in 2020. Now, next to Nelson is Clinton. Clinton and Sherry Williams are lifelong friends who also helped with the 1995 reunion, and they remained in the trenches with us every year thereafter. In addition to their cooking skills at the prayer breakfast, Sherry's lovely floral centerpieces grace our tables at every event. And in addition to serving as photographer and unofficial chaplain, Clinton is MRSPT's vice president. He was not able to be here today because of caring for Sherry as she navigates serious health challenges, but he sends his greetings to everyone. Now, board member Dale Jones is here today. Dale and her husband Paul are also lifelong friends, and their kitchen skills contributed to the success of our prayer breakfast. You see, people who came to the prayer breakfast, they would taste a good meal, a great meal, but they didn't know the people in the kitchen who were doing the cooking and then doing the cleanup and all of that. And it was people like Sherry and Clinton and Dale and Paul who were behind the scenes doing those things. So we never could have had a successful events without them. So their kitchen skills also contributed to the success of our prayer breakfast. And after my husband John passed in 2018, Dale stepped in as our treasurer. And she also serves as the board's point person on our scholarship fund committee. And I want to recognize the lady right next to her. Dio Akenshie is also on our scholarship committee. And these ladies review the applications that come in from and recommend the students who are awarded the scholarships. So, Dio, we really thank you. Now, next to, of course, Dale was below Clinton, but she's here, so you see her. Next to Clinton is Lisa Leone. We met Lisa when she was a ranger with the National Park Service, but she continued assisting MRSPT even after changing careers. Besides managing MRSPT's website, Lisa established an Instagram account, and she also created this very PowerPoint that we're using today in 2020. Of course, it's been adapted for today's special presentation, but she had the vision to do a PowerPoint for us, and we're tremendously grateful that she wants to remain connected with MRSPT despite relocating to South Carolina in 2024 to be near her aging parents. So, of course, she couldn't be here today, but she's with us in spirit. Now, I'll jump down to Gerard Jolly, who's beneath Barbara. And as I mentioned earlier in 1999, we met Gerard when he was an interpretive ranger with the National Park Service. His support for our Alumni Association while a ranger, as well as beyond his NPS career, has included helping us file for grant funding, refining our initial scholarship awards program, and serving as MRSPT's vice president. Unfortunately, he couldn't attend today's program due to job-related commitments, but we do keep in touch with Gerard. Also, Mike DuBose, who is the youngest board member, having been introduced to MRSPT when his family came to our first Civil War Symposium in 2006. He's right next to Gerard. They continued to attend MRSPT events, and we were delighted to fund Mike as a scholarship recipient for 4 years. After graduating, he became a photojournalist, but he remained in contact with us and eventually joined our board in 2017. So Mike has been with us from 2006. I'm not real good in math, but this is 2026. So he's been with us a good little while. He had planned to be here today, but contacted me yesterday and expressed his disappointment that he was given an emergency assignment, and they put him on a plane last night. So he won't be back until Saturday, but he had planned to be here. We do have board member Joyce Bailey, who Pat and I first met in 2005. Joyce? And when we met Joyce in 2005, she was the director of the Black Fashion Museum in Northwest DC. Because of our shared interest in Civil War history as well as African American history in general, Joyce enthusiastically supported MRSPT's mission and programs, and we were honored to welcome her as a member of our board in 2009. Last but not least, sometime after Peter Kissel visited MRSPT's exhibit table in 2009, that was at Fort Stevens Day, he and his wife Sharon became faithful and active MRSPT supporters. But long before joining the board in 2017, Peter volunteered his help with Lincoln Thomas Day and other MRSPT events. Having retired from a successful legal career, Peter masterfully juggles serving on our board with actively participating in several other organizations. And we were amazed that he still had time to author and publish 3 Patriots. He didn't know I was going to do this. Last year, which details his immigrant ancestors' Hopes and Trials in Civil War America. And Peter, we are proud of you for that accomplishment. We didn't even know he was working on a book. So So that's our board. Now, as we move into the alumni panel and our Q&A session, besides the two ladies I mentioned, Rose and Mary Hicks, the surviving alumni that we are aware of include all the way on the left, Mrs. Ann Smitherman. She's also authored a book. I don't have a copy of it, but her book is Always in Love with Amy. And I know it's available online, but she's unable to be here today because she's a caregiver to her husband who recently had a hospitalization. These two in the middle are here today. And this lady on the far end, Carol Lightfoot Walker, is also a surviving alumnus. She's probably about the youngest one. And she, if you've been down past the Military Road School, there's a Victorian house on Missouri Avenue, a distinct white and green house. Carol grew up in that house, which belonged to her father, Professor George Lightfoot. He was a professor at Howard University. And she still has the house. But Carol couldn't be with us today. And of course, the lady with the side position there, Mrs. Chloe Carpenter, passed away about 2 weeks ago, I believe. Her nephew is also an alumnus, and he's going to be on the panel today. But she was very, very active in our Alumni Association and with MRSPT until failing health prevented her from doing that. So with that, we're going to move. Oh, well, she's here. Yeah, Yvonne is here. She's going to be on our panel. Yeah. Yvonne didn't write a book that we know of. But you can come on up and tell us what you did. So I'm stepping down, and our dear alum, Pat Tyson, is going to handle the alumni portion.
Sure these microphones are all turned.
Well, good afternoon, students. Thank you all for being here today. And, a special thank you to Bill Brown. Bill Brown he may not have been on our board, but Bill Brown is like our right hand. He is in everything that we do and supports us. We just want to share with you today a little bit about our day at the Military Road School. So just hang in there with us, please. I just want to say that this is Billy Lucas. Billy is the son of Mrs. Donessa Lucas, whom our scholarship committee scholarship is named after. And he's a wonderful supporter and very active in his own way. We have next to him Mrs. Rose Harper, And Rose is a professional golfer and a star in her own right. And then we have Mrs. Hicks, who is the author that stood up and has written that exciting book. I like that title. And then Yvonne Betty Collins, who is on the far end. She was also an alumni of the Military Road School. I heard something, a phrase connected with Black History Month about 2 weeks ago. I don't know if Carter G. Woodson said it or not, but an education is not a luxury. It's an obligation. And we, the alumni on this little old 4-classroom school, this school helped shape our lives. And we're very, very grateful and thankful for the time that we spent there. By the time I went, it was grades 1 through 6. And it was small, but it was mighty. I'm not going to take more than 3 or 4 minutes to tell you just a little bit about what it did to my life. I would say that we were summoned to class every day by a handbell. Up the street, and it didn't even dawn on me until about 30 years ago, I'd hear an electric bell that would make a noise and a chime for the children to gather at school. That was at the Brightwood Elementary School for the white kids. It was an electric bell. We were summoned with a handbell. The kids that lived in the neighborhood knew it was time for class. Anybody who went to school knew it was time for class. Class was a serious time. We in our classrooms, my classroom teacher was known as Norma Johnson, and she was the principal teacher there, but a mighty, mighty, wonderful teacher that knew all the kids and worked with all of them. Our school was not only a school, but it was a family. And you saw the picture my sister showed of me as the May Queen. That picture symbolizes an awful lot to me. I put one on the back table with a closer look. She was my teacher. She was one, and those are all of us there. But as the May Queen, she did my hair. She fixed my hair for me. I went over to her house, she fixed my hair. One of the other students' mother made my dress. My teacher also made the crown, which was I'd never seen anything like that before or since. But she made my crown for me. And the 2 little girls on each side of the throne I put back there were her nieces. They went there to the school as well, not as students, but they were small and they were part of our lives. Her mother, her sisters, everyone was part of our family there at the Military Road School. When our parents and our teachers worked together, the district educational system said that this educational system was designed to make a whole person. And everything about a child mattered. And so how we got along with each other, what we learned, and what we aspired to do was covered in that report card. It was something else. The teacher had to give us a grade, to say to our parents how we were doing. The parent had to respond, and we had to take it back to school. If we were lacking in anything educationally, the parent would respond that they were going to work with us and make it right. It was a thing where each morning and that we went to school, today's society, I just have a heavy heart but a joyful heart. But my heart is really heavy because every day I hear something on the TV or see something that says there's trouble in the school. Children are murdering each other. Things are not going right in our country. I was brought up to respect, honor America. I was taught in the morning, we all said the Lord's Prayer, or as well as the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art, because the Lord is with me. The Lord is with me. I will never, ever forget that. The Lord is with me. No matter what goes on, somebody's covering me. Somebody's caring for me. Somebody's guiding me. As a child, I didn't understand that, but it was in that psalm. I have to say that I'm very thankful that I was born in this country, to the parents I was born, and to the people that made me somewhat aware of the fact that other people were important too. The world was not about me. And that's what today it seems to be about. Young people they keep reaching for something, trying to hold on to something. And it slips right through their fingers. They seem to be lonely, but they are right. They seem to be lonely, looking for something, and they can't find it. At the school, let's say, one more minute. After we said the prayer and the flag salute to the flag, which was very important, we had inspection. Now, probably other schools didn't have what we had as an inspection, but because we came from, our school was born out of the Fort Stevens, one of the empty barracks there, deserted barracks there. We had inspection. That meant we came to class looking like we were ready for class. That meant we came to class with the attention of a little soldier. And if you didn't have the right attention, the teacher knew how to get it. And it wasn't very pleasant, but she did. Inspection for us was, how do I look? Is my hair okay? Look at my ears. Are my ears clean? Look at my teeth. Are they clean? These were the things a girl had to have her little handkerchief or whatever. The boys had to have their handkerchief in their hip pocket. Clean hands. Everything had to be right. And therefore, that was the way we started our day. And I don't want to tell you more about the day, but we were very aware of the world events as well as the events in our little world. And probably my favorite trip was the one where we went to the Congress. And we had to go in a session of Congress and look at that, be there. And I'll never forget, Senator Dirksen was around then. And he was before his time, because anybody that knows his hair was all over his head. And here we had to go through inspection, and here he was with his own. But I learned an awful lot there. And I'd like to give our panelists here an opportunity to say what they'd like to about the school. But I'm so very, very thankful. It was a long day for me and Theresa because we came from Silver Spring, so our day started around 7 o'clock, and we didn't get home until around 6. So thank you. And Billy Lucas, would you go for it?
My remembrances of Military Road School was Okay. Eat the mic, huh? I'm sorry. My remembrance of the school is one of them was being a patrol boy, helping to get the people across the school. The streets. And there was this officer that used to come to the school and teach us these little ditties about, being a safety cavalier, use your eyes and ears, helping people. I also recall there was a garden that was there. We had to cultivate some kind of vegetables and things. And I'd never heard of a radish. So we grew these radishes, and I, of course, being a mischievous little fellow that I was, had to try one before the teacher said anything. I made my way to the water fountain very quickly. There was a lot of fun to be had there, a lot of education. We were taught poems, we were taught Black history. Yeah, that's basically my remembrances of the school. I didn't stay the full 6 years. I was transferred in the 6th grade down closer to where I lived. But there's about 3 generations of my family that went and graduated from the school. So we have a lot of history there.
Well, first, good afternoon, and thank all of you all for taking time from your schedules to be here with us. It's an honor for me to be here. And I'd first like to say thank you and commend Patricia and Theresa and all of the board members for the tremendous work that they have done in the preservation of Military Road School. I'm probably one of the ones here who has least the memory of what I did there at the school, but I was picking the brain of Yvonne over here while I was saying, so when did we go to school? What year were we? Well, I went to Military Road School along with my 3 siblings. We lived in Hyattsville, and my mother worked at Walter Reed Hospital. My father was career military. So my mother would drive us to school every morning when it was still dark because she had to go to work very early. She would park on Georgia Avenue on the side street there, and we would stay in the car until it was time for us to go to school. Today, she would be locked up for child neglect or whatever. But it was a very pleasant time for me. My sister Dora, I wish I had thought the good sense to tell her to come today. She's 3 years younger than I. So she was younger and she couldn't go to school at that age, but the principal, Miss Matthews, allowed her to come into school. And I guess somebody said before, she was a conscientious observer. Well, if she were here today, she has a much better recall than I. And she remembers a lot about when we went to school. And Yvonne even remembers when she knew you remembered my brothers, my mother, my father. So I'm currently working on my memoirs, and I will be sitting at her feet saying, "Oh, what do we do?" But it was a very pleasant time for me. I've always been a very inquisitive child, and as an adult, even more inquisitive today. So Military Road is the base of my beginning, my founding, And I'm very grateful that I've had that opportunity and that experience, particularly as we live in this environment and this culture. It is extremely more important, and today is special to me, and thank you all for inviting me. As I'm working on my memoir, these pictures that we have taken will certainly be very prominent in recalling my life. I'm not a professional golfer. I am an amateur golfer who managed 7 professional golfers for 26 years on the PGA Tour. So there's a big difference between an amateur and a professional. But that is my life. That's my passion. I still do a lot with lecturing and keynoting and things of that nature, and I still play golf. So Military Road is my base, has been my base. What I remember fondly about the school is the principal was very involved with all of the students, and thus my sister was able to go to school 3 years before she was eligible. The other thing is, Patricia has said, the discipline was so much different then. We were very respectful children. We could not, I won't say that these kids are totally disrespectful, but we could not dare challenge our teachers the way that these students challenge their teachers. I've been fortunate enough to be an adjunct at the college level, and I couldn't deal with it. Quite frankly, I guess because of the way that I was trained and the way that I was brought up. I couldn't tolerate the disrespect of the college students, the way that they spoke, the way that they dressed, all of that. So it lasted a little while. They wanted me to come back, but when you are steeped in culture and history and respect, it's hard for you to change. And I'm very grateful for Military Road School.
I want to say thank you for the invite, and thank you for accepting me. You accepted me very graciously, and I appreciate that. I love Military Road School. I had a wonderful time. I spent a lot of time, what we call, where you would hang your coats. And I spent a lot of time in there. There was no chairs in there. You go in there, certain people could go, everybody couldn't go in there. You had show off. That was where you go when you showed off. And I spent a lot of time. My mom took me, and she said, "You're going to school today?" And I said, "This is a good thing. I'm dressing up like going to church." So when I got to the door, I decided, this is not what I want. I'm not doing this. I know I can handle this. So I fell down and started crying and kicking. And she looked at me and she said, "Are you crippled?" And I looked at her and I saw her face and I said, "Not today." And I went into class and behaved myself all day. But I did spend, like I said, in the it was called a cloakroom. It was very dark and ugly in there, but I had to go. That was my place sometimes. And we had breakfast every day. They served breakfast for us. And we had milk that came in bottles with that paper top that you got to pluck up. I had no fingernails because I ate them. So I had everybody was finished. They came to collect, and I'm still trying to get the top off. So I went to the cloakroom again. That was all right. That's my place. I knew just where to go. No chairs in there, you know. So, but I left military. But one thing about Military Road School, when we went to the next school, which was Banneker for me, they were learning the math that we knew. They were learning the English that we knew. You learned in that school. And on Wednesdays was another thing that was my day in the cloakroom, because I would forget or else pull the bow off. Deliberately girls had to have a bow on their hair every Wednesday. So I drew one and stuck it up there, and of course to the cloakroom. "What are you doing?" Back in the cloakroom again. And we had steps where you could go up, but we only went to 2 rooms. And I wanted to know what was up there. And they said you couldn't go up there, so I waited one day, and the cloakroom, you could go out this way. So I went out the back way, and I'm going up, and I'm going to see what's up there. I got a surprise. When I got up there, somebody said, "What are you doing up here?" Oh, God. I said, "I'm in the cloakroom." "No, you're not. You're going to the cloakroom." Well, I ended up going to Cardoza and few little classes at a couple colleges, but I decided my grandfather and my grandmother would sit on the porch in the evenings before they went to bed, and I was always there. And my grandfather would say, "Go get the stuff, you know where it is. It's a little bottle of liquor." They never would buy a whole big bottle. And so the train station wasn't far from where we lived in Tacoma Park. And the people would come from the south and sit on the porch. My grandma would go back and give them biscuits and stuff, because we didn't eat a lot of loaf bread. We ate biscuits all the time. So anyway, they would tell stories about their life and why they were running from the south. And I listened. And so I decided one day, well, I'll write that. I'll write some of these things. So that I wrote the book. And then I decided I want some of the slave chains. So I found where to get them. So I normally, when I speak, I bring the slave chains, because when you feel them, it's a whole lot different. Looking at a cake and eating it is different than just looking at a piece of cake, because you might like it and you might not like, but the feel of it, you know? And I wanted them, the children and people, to really feel it, because it's rusty, it's dirty, and I won't let them take not one little piece of dirt or rust off it. I want the whole feeling of this, what was put on people and how heavy it was. So I wrote about it, and I have slave chains, but I don't have them with me, you know, but I do. But I do thank you for your attention. Y'all have a blessed day.
Good afternoon. I'm Yvonne Walker Collins, and when I came, I thought I would be the oldest or the most senior person here at 88, but I want you to know that she's 94. And I want you to know that our experience at Military Road is something that we can talk about forever, but you have to feel it, you have to live it, you have to know it in order to appreciate it. We had 3 teachers at the time that I was there. Miss Whittier had 1st and 2nd grade, Miss Cooper had 3rd and 4th, and Miss Johnson had 5th and 6th. They were dedicated teachers. It wasn't that they were there for the salary, because I'm sure it was not great at that time, but they were determined that the kids that they passed on would be people who could do well in our society. And I am very grateful. I talk to my granddaughter and my daughter all the time about our experience there. We had the district sent a doctor once a year to give us a physical. They sent us a dental hygienist once a year to check our teeth. So we were cared for, and we felt loved, and we knew that we had to do well to please everyone who was investing in our lives. So, like today, we thank you very much for being here to say Military Road was really a great place. You would have to have been there in order to appreciate it. But before I leave, I want to say Pat and Theresa are the 2 people that have made all of this possible. They have dedicated many, many years of service to not letting Military Road be passed on and not recognized. They are really special to the District of Columbia because of what they've given us. I thank you for your being here.
May we have your questions, if anyone has? No, I was just going to ask them. Is there is there anyone that has a question? We're about out of time.
Caroline has a, there we go.
I do have a question about the Alumni Association's relationship with the people that have been leasing the school across the last couple decades,
Oh, okay.
including Lamb. We have some Lambies here.
Oh,
So we're
oh,
particularly
good,
curious about the
Oh, good.
relationship with the Latin American bilingual Montessori school.
When they were there at that building, we tried to keep in touch with them, see what was going on, and it was a pleasant relationship. The school is back into the DC public school system. It went back about 4 years ago. And so it's now called the Military Road Early Learning Center. So it's back in the public school. It was sold to the Latin American bilingual Montessori school. And then when they decided that they were able to go other places and put all of their programs together, they sold it back to the DC public school system for a handsome sum. And so they are now located on 14th Street.
Is there a relationship between their alumni association and your alumni?
No, there isn't. And I think that the principal that we knew is not there anymore. We had a relationship with some of the admin people that were there. No, but we don't.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. I'm Loretta Newman. And I too want to thank both Pat and her sister Theresa. I mean, they are the ones that saved this school and brought a lot of others of us into it. And we helped, but without them, it would not have ever happened. And they were constant, and they still are to this day, obviously. I do have one, I don't know if it's so much a question or a comment, or somebody out, and maybe one of you or somebody else might be able to answer it. I've always wondered why, after the 1954, the Supreme Court decision, and then they closed Military Road School. Now, Military Road School was a fine school. You've just been hearing how wonderful a school it was. Why they closed the black schools, and then they supposedly integrated the white schools. Whether or not, I just don't understand why it could not have remained, and welcomed white people to come to it, of course. No, it's just my thought. It's something that's bothered me.
Well, the law was the law, and it seemed like that was the trend of the day. There are a few schools that are still left. Yes, you want to comment on that? Yes.
I think that when you said that, it struck a nerve with me. It was very interesting in 1954 when the decision was made. Many black organizations felt that it was appropriate to integrate. This was an opportunity to integrate. And so they closed. My personal experience is that my grandfather started the Black YMCA in the town that I lived in. He passed the paperwork on to my uncle. And in 54, there was a change. The paperwork went to the Central Normal YMCA for integration. And that happened in towns and in a number of different places. But then there were other places, and especially in churches, that they were determined to hold on to their building, to hold on to their traditions, and they were not going to integrate.
Anybody else?
Is this on? Mm-hmm. Yeah. My guess, to add to what you just had to say, kind of from a different angle, your question, Loretta, I would guess, and I say this as kind of an amateur historian, a longtime student of the civil rights movement as well as our history, there probably were no white people who cared to step foot in what had been a black school. They would have considered it to be, quote, dirty, inadequate, And even if not, they would have said, no, black people were there. We're not going to send our nice white kids to that structure. I would suspect that that was a lot of what was going on there. And it's not just in this school, of course, that happened to. Schools throughout the South, they didn't integrate into the black schools. They just didn't do that. I was lucky. I grew up in a northern school that didn't have those issues. So I'm just kind of giving my perspective from what I've read.
Can I add something to that? I'd like to say I think there was, throughout the years, it's been a great misunderstanding that we wanted to be what white people were, what they had. That's not what we were raised on. We wanted to be on our own, to have our own, to be able to have the same opportunities to have our own. Not that we wanted to be what you are, we wanted to be what we were.
We'll do one more question. Anybody?
So I went to Paul Junior High School during the '68 riots. We walked by that school regularly. It was kind of creepy to get to the 14th Street bus. But Paul was a much bigger school with a huge gym and this and that. So it's not surprising that everybody went to Paul. It was just a better facility. My parents had the position that integration can also be 90% black and 10% white. But with Coolidge, for example, everybody went crazy when the ratio between black and white was 40%. Then there's all this white flight and stuff. But I went to Coolidge also, but I can tell you both schools got kind of violent in my day.
That's interesting to hear you say that the school was sort of creepy as you walked past it.
It was empty. So, you see, when we went down Military Road, often we had to deal with gangs. Sometimes we had to hide out in some of those apartment building lobbies to avoid them.
You're obviously much younger than we. We never had to deal with any gangs up there. It was very peaceful, very charming, very elegant, I must say. Unfortunately, yes, times have changed, so you're much younger. There were no gangs when we were growing up there, but that school is still very much, to me, I guess because I'm partial about it. It's I've been by there several times and had my photographers to take pictures because I'm working on my book, but it is a part of my DNA, a part of my culture, part of my history, and things do change. But you have to remember, I was born here in this city. I was born at Freedman's Hospital, which is now Howard University Hospital, which is also a very historical site here. So I've been very blessed to travel the globe many, many times to 26 times to so many cities. And Military Road represents to us here on stage and to many others. It's a sacred place for me. And as I listened to Mary talk about the cloakroom, the closet, I spent a lot of time there. I didn't.
I could tell you at Coolidge.
I was always there.
At Coolidge, at football games, they used to light the pom-poms and throw them in the crowd. One of them landed right behind me, and that was the last football game I ever went to. And then when we practiced gym on 4th Street, this guy would drive up drunk, try to run us all over. 30 years later, at my high school reunion, somebody brought it up. But that's the way things went. But for me, I started my business, Danco Electronics, by skipping 5th and 6th period at Coolidge for months at a time. So I'm still in business today thanks to that.
We should...
I'm sorry. I used to walk by, Corrine and I, on our way to Paul Junior High School, and I never knew. We would walk by Military Road School. We noticed it, didn't know what it is until now.
Yeah, well,
I think okay.
I walked past Coolidge. I lived in Tacoma Park. We walked from Tacoma Park to Rock Creek Park every day. to go to school, first grade, snow, slayer, he don't make no difference what was going on, you walked. And I know about Coolidge. Coolidge was not cool for people of my color. Neither was the pool or the tennis court, because I went in there by myself to play tennis, and 2 policemen told me, get out, and they used the N-word to me, and they told me, one of them say smacker. And because my grandfather said that if anybody hit me, he would take he said, this is a knuckle bone, I'll take care of it for you. So I told him, I said, if you hit me, I'm going to tell my grandfather, and he's going to hit it with the knuckle bone. And the one said, don't take that from her, lock her up, just lock her up. I was about 7. And so when I came out of the tennis court, I started to run. He said, if you run, I'm going to shoot you. I say, I'm dead. Just kill me. I'm dead because I'm going to run, because I'm going my way to tell my grandfather, stay here till he come back, because he's going to use a knucklebone on you. Coolidge was not cool, believe me. And I hated walking in the snow as a little kid, going with galoshes coming off my feet to get to Military Road School. That's all I got to say.
Just one more question.
Well, you have to remember the era in which we are talking about when we went to Military Road School. Washington, D.C. was still one of the most racist countries in the world. So you have to remember that. We were transferred from school to school when they changed the zoning. We had to go to the school in our zone. So we still have a lot of work to do right here in our own hometown, in our city. And it is because of institutions and schools like Military Road that we are still very compassionate about education and where we are today.
I just have a very quick comment. My name is Tim, and I'm on the board of AOI. I really want to thank you for coming today, the panelists, but also to Patricia and Theresa, for what you've done, and you've called it the standard of excellence. And I really want to say it's the standard of Black excellence that is so important for us to remember and hold up. And I know, I've driven past the school. I grew up a mile away, and I knew it was a school, and now I know so much more about it. And I'm very, very happy that you protected that building. Among other things, you protected the community, but you protected that building, and it is a school to this day for pre-K kids, for 3- and 4-year-olds. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for coming today and telling your stories. It's so important. I appreciate you. Thank you.
I have one footnote. I have a friend who grew up in Tacoma Park. His great aunt went to the Military Road School. She just celebrated her 101st birthday. She and her brother would walk all the way from Tacoma Park to the Military Road School because Montgomery County didn't have schools at that time for blacks. So would she be the oldest alumni? 101? Her name was Dorothy Dickerson.
Oh my gosh. She's the one. She's the one.
She was in the slideshow because I just texted her nephew.
I know Miss Dickerson very well.
She's the one with the report card.
In fact, I was at one of her birthday parties.
Oh, yeah, so her 101st was in December.
Yes, she just had one, but I was at the other one. I couldn't make this one, but I know the whole family.
Wonderful.
So should wrap the official part of the afternoon anyway. We should wrap it up so that we thank everybody for showing up. If anybody wants to hang around afterwards for an informal discussion, that's absolutely fine. But we ought to thank everybody for coming today, and we're looking forward to seeing you next month. Thank you. Thank you.
I just listen. I just wanted to add one note. I guess it's too late. Oh well.